Max Dowman is football's next global superstar. He is another player that has come through Hale and has come through Arsenal's academy to come and potentially break through into the first team. And the maddest thing about this entire thing is that he's only 15 years old. Now, Hale is known for producing so much talent. You have the likes of Bukayo Saka, Ethan Nwaneri, even Miles Lewis-Skelly. So many players have come through Hale over the last couple of years, and you have to thank Per Mertesacker for finding out about these gems, for developing them for the first team, and for allowing Arsenal to use their academy throughout the league and throughout all their competitions. And it's a very good thing. It's always been part of the history of Arsenal to use young players. You think of the guys like Fabregas and so on and so forth. And to be honest, with Max Dowman, a lot of people are dreaming. A lot of people are already comparing him with the likes of Lamine Yamal and Haaland and Messi, and even coming forward to saying that, you know what, he could be one of those next big superstars. But you never really know. He's only 15 years old. But in this video, I'm just going to give you a bit of a breakdown on this player, because this is the guy that I've known about for a while. His name has really come through the academy even before he made his debut, and a lot of people were eyeing the opportunity for him to finally make it through to the first team. And we've managed to see that, especially against the likes of AC Milan and even Newcastle. And we all know how hard Newcastle can be. And to see him play against Joelinton and to give him a tough time, and for him to be in those attacking areas on the right side of the pitch and dribble through and get into good spaces and just be absolutely fearless, he does look like a really interesting player. So he's born in 2009 in December 31st. Literally, the mad thing is he's born on the last day of the year, so that's absolutely funny. He's only 15 years old. He's from England. He's over 6 foot, and he can play as an attacking midfielder, or even play as a right winger, or play as a central midfield support. So you could already see the comparisons between him and Martin Odegaard. They're two very similar players in terms of where they play, and we saw when Max Dowman was playing against AC Milan and especially against Newcastle, he liked playing forward. That's where he was more comfortable in. He debuted for Arsenal in the under-18s in September 2023, where he was aged just 13 years old. So he was 13 years old where he debuted for the under-18s, which is really remarkable, to be honest. And he became the youngest goal scorer in the UEFA Youth League history, because in September 2024 he scored against Atlanta, where he was 14 years old and 8 months. So he was already breaking records, and he even broke into Premier League 2 as the youngest Arsenal player at 14 years old in December 2024. Now, a lot of people attribute guys like Jack Wilshere and Fabregas, and for him to come through as the youngest player, that's really big signs. And in terms of the first team exposure, he started training with the senior squad in the late 2024, and he stayed in pre-season in Asia. And although it's his unofficial senior debut, he has managed to play against AC Milan and Newcastle, and he scored a penalty as well, and especially when he got the decisive spot kick against Newcastle. I don't know, it's really weird why they're even deciding to do penalties in pre-season, but I guess that's just a new thing for players to do. And in terms of internationally, for under-16s and under-17s for England, since 2024 he's got 16 caps and 11 goals for the under-17s, and he's featured as a starter in all group matches of the 2025 UEFA European Under-17s Championship, scoring and assisting in key matches. So for both at club level and even internationally for England, he is another potential player that England may be looking forward to in the future. Now, in terms of his play style, he's a creative playmaker. He's got good dribbling, vision, passing, and he's able to unlock defenses, all things you want from a midfielder. And he's technically proficient. Now, if you remember Arsene Wenger, one of the key things he said about what you need to have as young players is be very good technically. And if you're not good technically, then you can forget it. You won't make it in football. And this guy technically is very good. He's good at set pieces. Arteta will love that for obvious reasons. He's trusted for free kicks and corners at youth level, so very similar to Martin Odegaard, and really good at set pieces is something that Arsenal would benefit from. And he's praised by youth coaches from Arsenal such as Gustavo Oliveira as the next Kaká, highlighting his elegance and execution. Now, if you're compared to the likes of Kaká, that is a very big thing, because Kaká was an immense player. And Mikel Arteta has said that Dowman is a big talent, an extraordinary talent, and he's someone who's very mature and composed for, but even though he's just 15 years old. And the thing is with Max Dowman, one thing that I really liked is the fact that he's very confident, and the fact that he's fearless in the sense where he'll take the ball and he'll just drive forward. And at a young age, that's something that's really important to have, and we can all see how much confidence plays a big part. For Arsenal, we could say Kai Havertz, when he came to Arsenal, had to build up his confidence a bit, but eventually he ended up scoring key goals in the 23-24 season. And another player that we could also talk about with confidence is Scott McTominay. Look how different he looks from Manchester United to Napoli. In Napoli, he's player of the season, helped them win a title. He looked like a completely different player, and that was attributed to his confidence. So confidence plays a big part, and especially with the young player, that's something that's really important to have, because that allows them to expose themselves in terms of their creativity and their technical proficiency and how well they can perform on the pitch. Now, Declan Rice called him the best 15-year-old in the country back in March 2024, and to be honest, you know, he is an Arsenal player. Obviously he's going to hype his own players, but you know what it is, when you see a player, you tend to start believing in those things. And Perry Groves, who was an ex-Arsenal winger, stated that only injury or attitude could halt his rise, saying that he's probably the best 15-year-old that he's ever seen from Arsenal. And Simon Jordan compared him to Lamine Yamal, and that's the thing, like, I know with Lamine Yamal, he's a real proper gem in terms of where he's come from, in terms of what he's been able to do for Spain and help them win the Euros, and especially last season in La Liga and even in the Champions League, Lamine Yamal was playing at such a high exceptional level, and a lot of people will say that he could possibly win the Ballon d'Or in the next coming years. Now, in terms of his comparison to Lamine Yamal, he says that his ability to dribble past players and have the end product is at an elite level. And bear in mind, like I said, this guy is only 15 years old. Now, in terms of the under-18s Premier League, in between 15 to 25 appearances, he scored 15 goals. In 3 appearances, he scored a hat-trick against Leicester in the FA Cup, and he's managed to show strong leadership and football intelligence, and he offers team feedback during the post-brew matches. So if you're doing that at 15 years old, then that shows he probably has a lot of maturity and probably a lot of guts to be able to do that. Now, a lot of people are saying that Max Dowman will be included for the 25-26 season, but that is dependent on how he'll be able to handle things physically and mentally. Now, don't get me wrong, physically he's over 6 foot plus. He could probably play in the Premier League in terms of just by his height alone, but in terms of how physically strong he is, that's going to be a different story. And mentally, we got to remember, this is a guy that's in, you know, he's in secondary school. He's probably in year 9, year 10, probably going into year 11, around that mark, and he's still a very young boy essentially. And continued progression in the pre-season tour may open more doors to competitive debuts. Now, a lot of people may say that he will play more in the Carabao Cups and the FA Cups in the beginning of those tournaments before he even turned 16, but you never really know what could happen. However, I think one of the good things with Arsenal is that we need to make sure that we don't rush him. He develops himself mentally, he develops himself maturely as well, because even though he's playing with confidence, it's very easy to lose it, and one bad game can completely shatter a person's confidence, and then it gets very hard for them to come back. So therefore, I think with Arsenal, the main thing is just to make sure he trains with the first team, plays alongside them. I think have the opportunity to just live his life as a kid essentially, because once he gets into football and he plays in the first team and he's a regular, it's going to be a different kettle of fish, especially for him. But I think with Max Dowman, he has the potential to be football's next global superstar. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking about the likes of guys like Wayne Rooney and Fabregas, and even people like, I don't know, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, guys that really started very young. But we also have to remember that if Arsenal don't treat things the right way, he could be like Ravel Morrison or Freddie Adu, and that is something that Arsenal need to avoid and learn from in terms of what went wrong for those sorts of players, especially guys like Pato, and mold Dowman into the next best thing. I remember Odegaard was very similar as well, where he started off very young and a lot of people called him a flop, but it had to take time for him to develop and eventually become the player he is today. And I think with Dowman, if Arsenal can play their cards right, they have a next big player on their hands. And you never really know if they're able to deal with his mindset, his adaptability, even make sure he doesn't get injured or anything like that, then you never know, the sky's the limit. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Max Dowman. I think he's going to be an immense player one day, so long as Arsenal keep him on the right tracks, and I think he'll be an exciting player to watch out for. But anyhow, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.